This is WIUR Radio.
Good evening, everyone. It's that jam-packed time of the year. Hockey, basketball, baseball. Got all the sports going on right now outside of football. But it's been kind of a weird situation in New York sports because I feel like it's a situation defined either by winning and losing, which obviously is the New York sports landscape. That's what it's known for. You have to win and win above all else. And I really want to dive into that today. So let's get into it a little bit. I really like to start off with football because I feel like it's it's not football season, but there's still stuff to talk about. A big question going around is whether or not the Giants are even going to draft a quarterback, let alone now. I'm going to touch a little bit on that. But should they trade down for Jackson Dart? I spoke on Jackson Dart a few weeks ago, and I explained why I liked him and why I think he was the guy the Giants should draft. But like all things do, that has changed. It's changed not because I don't like the player Jackson Dart is. I don't like the position he's being mocked to go at. He's now, it looks like he might even go above Shador. I quite honestly, I don't see that happening, but the way the analysts are projecting things, it looks like there is a scenario where Jackson Dart is drafted above Shador Sanders. But is Jackson Dart really that good, or is this just a weak QB class that people realized, oh man, this guy's got some really good skills when a lot of other players in the draft don't have these skills? But like I said, he's he has issues with his deep ball. He has iffy pocket awareness. These are all things Daniel Jones struggled with. And the way this team is built, I just don't see a player like that succeeding in this Shine Dable regime. It's just the way things are, unfortunately. Although I do think Russell Wilson possesses some of those skills, I think his veteran presence makes it a little bit better. But the big thing I really wanted to touch about with the New York Giants was the fact that, are they in win now mode? Is this a team where they've lost back-to-back seasons, not done very well? And everyone thought when they had signed Daniel Jones that it was the turnaround, but that was the season they signed Joe Shine and Brian Dable. Those are two really big changes to make in an organization. And yeah, it worked out that first season, but coaches like to get their guys. General managers like to get their guys. The reason I say that Aaron Boone will never be fired because he is a Brian Cashman guy. Brian Cashman finally found his guy. Girardi was not his guy. Torrey was not his guy, but Boone is. Boone was hired by Cashman. And it's the same situation in football. They want their QB. They want their roster construction. This was not their roster. And now it's a completely different roster than it was just a few years ago when they made the playoffs. It's a completely different team. It's been retooled. You've retained some players like Darius Slayton, who they signed to a 3-year contract. They've signed Paulson at Debo, signed Javon Holland, Roy Robinson, and Chauncey Goldston. And you add that on top of the quarterback moves they've made, maybe there's a world where you can say the Giants are in win now mode. They are currently, everyone's wondering what they're going to do in the draft because obviously this is a team that hasn't done well. And when you're a team that hasn't done well, you don't have a guy that's solidified in the quarterback role for a few years. It leads many experts and professionals around the league to infer that the Giants go the quarterback route. I feel like we fall down this trap every year with teams. They're going to draft a quarterback. They're going to draft a quarterback. Like when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley, and they didn't because they felt their team on the field was good enough to win. Well, definitely wasn't back then when they drafted Saquon Barkley, but the moves they've made match up with this win now mindset I've been talking about. This is not just a message on adding players, but that Joe Shine and Brian Dable are not content with losing. They're not content with building for the future. They want more. They want to win now. And I think that's perfect for the market they're in. They're in the New York sports market. I mentioned it in my opening that this is a market defined by winning. This is not a market that you succeed in by losing. This is not a market you can succeed in by losing for long. To me, I've pretty much come around on the idea of maybe the Giants are in this situation of we're ready to win now. We want to move forward with what we have. We feel like the young guys around quarterback are good enough. I want to bring up a few examples because I've been thinking about it when I was thinking on whether or not I really like the idea of the Giants going for a win now scenario. Oh man, you really need a young quarterback. You need a solidified franchise guy like a Mahomes. You need a solidified franchise guy like Eli was. You need this guy. But other teams have proved that's not the case. I think you look at the 2022 Super Bowl champions being the Los Angeles Rams when they acquired Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was a veteran presence. He was only signed for a few years, recently extended this all season. He was a guy that you would say, yes, this is a guy that's win now. And you look at the other quarterback that was traded, Jared Goff, he might not be the flashiest quarterback. He might not be the youngest quarterback, but he's leading your team to succeed. So, is there other ways to succeed outside of quarterback? The Giants, when they were in the Meadowlands, I always hear stories about how they used to build their team running back heavy and they wouldn't throw the ball much and they would rely on the talent around quarterback and for the quarterback to just read the defense, to call the plays. And that's how they succeeded because of where their stadium is in the Meadowlands. It's a wind tunnel, if you guys don't know. You throw the ball up there, there's a chance that it goes the complete opposite direction you're looking for, even backwards. Actually, I don't know if it could go backwards. I just wanted to throw that in there. But is this really the start of a new era in the National Football League? I think I point as far back as to when Patrick Mahomes started off in the NFL and he sat on the bench for his first year, or when Jordan Love sat on the bench for a few years. This is reminding me of how football used to be. When a quarterback would get drafted, they would not get thrown automatically into the starting role. They were expected to develop with that team. I think that's really how it should be. I think that throwing a quarterback straight into the fire is not going to work out 9 times out of 10. And that's why you see so many quarterbacks that get drafted be failures because they're not given that proper development time. And I think that's the thing that really made me come around on the New York Giants possibly being in a win now mode. They could draft someone this year, maybe next year. Maybe you draft Jackson Dart, but you bench him. You give him that time to develop. I think by giving a quarterback time to develop, it would be very beneficial. And you could still win now. The rest of the Giants roster surrounding quarterback is not bad. They've shored up both the D line and O line, and they have one of the best wide receivers, one of the youngest wide receivers, Malik Neighbors. You have a young running back. And with all this, a young quarterback isn't necessarily required. If anything, I think a veteran presence would is going to be very helpful in Russell Wilson to be able to command that locker room, to be able to go in and week out and get the energy you want from these guys. It's time to turn the page on a new era of Giants football. This veteran presence of Winston and Wilson is going to spread from the top down, and I talk about that almost every week, and I'm going to talk about it again. I can guarantee it. But that energy is going to keep flowing from the top down. That positivity from Russell Wilson, that positivity from Jameis Winston, it's going to spread. And you're going to see a very competitive Giants locker room this year. At least I hope. Now moving on to the other New York team or Jersey team. I still get confused on what to call it. There was an injury very recently that could very well benefit the New York Jets. Just a disclaimer, I obviously do not wish injury on any player. Even players I tend to not like, I always want to see out on the field because any competition is good competition. But bringing me to the point, Derek Carr underwent shoulder surgery recently, and the Saints are pretty desperate for a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is an option at number 9. Yes, that's how far Shedeur Sanders has dropped from the number 1 overall pick to number 9. But there's another team in on Shedeur Sanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers have been linked to Shedeur for quite a while here. It seems as though this Russell Wilson experiment with them might not actually lead anywhere. It might, but I feel like what's holding Aaron Rodgers from going to the Steelers, funny enough, is a young quarterback to take his place. I think he wants to leave behind a winning attitude and a good core to build from. And I feel like he realizes his mistake with the Jets. He just went into a situation he knew nothing about, and he wants to know everything there is to know about the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wants to know that when he leaves, he's leaving the team in good hands. He wants to know that his legacy will be left on this Steelers squad. And what a better way to leave your legacy on a team than by mentoring its next great quarterback. But the Saints still need a quarterback, and they pick right above the Pittsburgh Steelers. This makes the Jets' number 7 overall pick that much more interesting. This pick has gained immense value because now you have the Steelers that want, or not the Steelers that want to pick, you have the Saints that want the pick, and maybe even the Steelers that want the pick. And now they have leverage. This is a great way where you could shore up a roster. You have Justin Fields and an O-line that has, yes, gotten better this offseason, but is it still at the level needed to have a quarterback like Justin Fields? Justin Fields, a running quarterback, he scrambles a lot. I think that having a weak O-line like they have right now is not going to be very beneficial towards them because of the style of play that Justin Fields brings. So maybe you could draft an O-lineman. Maybe you could draft a defensive lineman because they still need a little bit of work on that front. Maybe you could draft a wide receiver. I think actually by trading this pick, it opens more possibilities than it would be if you kept this pick. And now this pick has all this value because of Derek Carr going down. This pick had almost no value last week. Absolutely none. But now with this, the Jets might have just been bailed out But it also brings up the possibility on, will Breece Hall be on the way out? The Bears have pitched a trade for Breece Hall. And the Jets have been very open about the fact that they want to go with a running back by committee approach this year, which I think works. I really do. I think that more teams should do it. I think it's similar to the opener in baseball, but not, I think it's more effective than that. I think it's something that could really benefit teams. Look at the Detroit Lions. Uh, but you're trading away a guy you drafted. It's another situation of Saquon Barkley, similar to that. Do you want to trade him now while he still has value, or will you wait? Will you wait to the deadline, or will you even wait to the end of the season where he's worth absolutely nothing? I think only the Giants can do that. But trading away that $8 million that Breece Hall makes can open up even more flexibility for the team, leading to deadline moves, like I mentioned, or moves right now. There are still some guys out there maybe you could bring in, shore up the roster a little bit. Why not? Doesn't seem like he's going to be a huge part to your offense this year. He still might be a great running back this year. But I feel like with injuries and all of this happening, where Breece Hall coming off an injury wasn't nearly as good as he was, raised a little bit of questions for the Jets front office. And it's going to be interesting to see if they want to go the route that leads them to more flexibility, or they want to go the more traditional route and keep their star. Overall, I think the Jets have made a really sturdy foundation for this upcoming season that can be taken in any different direction, really, to benefit the team. I think they've put themselves in a very good position where they could go in many different ways, and I feel like that's the thing everyone always aims for when building a roster, is that depth. So now is, I'll go with a lighter topic first. The Knicks. The Knicks are playoff bound, number 3 seed. They're going to be playing the Pistons in the first round of the NBA playoffs this year. I think I had gotten the chance to mention I would much rather have the Knicks have the 4 seed. I think I got the chance to mention that. I'm not quite sure, but it's because of what this seeding leads the Knicks to, and that's to the Boston Celtics. But first, you have to look at the opponent in front of you. Cade Cunningham is an all-world player, and he's gotten a lot of reactions from different players and coaches. Let's take a look at that. Mikal Bridges said he just goes at his own pace. He's calm all the time. And I think this year, even the year before, but this year especially, more playmaking, making more reads, getting other guys open, knowing he has the ball in his hands more, but still getting other guys going, knowing he has more opportunities. I think we keep seeing Cade Cunningham develop as his career has progressed, and we've seen him grow into a great NBA player. But part of my worry facing the Pistons was they were not going to give Cade Cunningham the necessary protection that would benefit them the most in this series. But Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau has said he's giving the Pistons and Cunningham the proper amount of respect. As to what that means is maybe double coverage, maybe not. But he's a guy you really have to keep your eye on, and it's going to be an interesting factor into this Knicks Pistons series because I feel like I saw them even in a game that I'm going to touch on a little bit, their game against the Boston Celtics. I feel like they were leaving Kristaps Porzingis, a guy that you might not think is gonna be the biggest difference maker with Jaylen Brown and, Jaylen Brown with with basically, with all the stars they have. Oh, and Tatum. With Jaylen Brown and Tatum, but they kept leaving Kristaps open as he was going, storming down the court because he wasn't the biggest threat on the court. I don't want them to be overly obsessed with Cade Cunningham either. I want them to keep a nice little balance because everything's about balance. If you keep your attention too much on one player, it's going to leave another player open. If you keep too much attention on the other player, if you keep too little attention, and it keeps going and going, the possibilities are endless as to what can possibly happen. But I'm confident that Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks can definitely make it past the first round, and the Detroit Pistons, especially since it was the franchise's best record since 2013 and eclipsed last year's mark by one win, which obviously great in anything, everything. But when I talk about this New York sports market, I don't talk about winning in the regular season. I talk about winning in the postseason and winning one round of the playoffs, two rounds. New York Mets does not mean you're successful. It doesn't. Not in this market. Maybe in Kansas City it does. Maybe in any other smaller market like Florida it does. But not in New York. And when you look past Detroit and exactly why I wanted them to get the number 4 seed, and said they started all their starters and not the Pistons, the Pacers sat all of theirs. I don't. That's one thing I'm really frustrated with is the fact that the Knicks they listed all their starters as questionable and then landed up playing them anyway. Very very frustrating to me as someone that looks at matchups a lot. I don't know if I read too much into matchups, but I'm pretty sure anyone that is remotely in tune with basketball would understand that the Celtics are obviously the best team on this side of the bracket. You do not want to be on that side of the bracket. So you would do anything you possibly can to not be on that side of the bracket. But anyway, you would face the Celtics in the second round now. I've mentioned in the games they've had with the Celtics in the past where I'm like, there's no way this team can compete with the Celtics. There's no way this team can compete with the Celtics. There's no way. Time after time, they're playing them, they're playing them, they're playing them. And every single time I'm like, no, no way they can keep up with the Celtics. This kind of changed. They lost in their last meeting with Boston, lost 119 to 117 in overtime. And this was with lackluster performances by Bridges and OG Anunoby. The story of this season all year has been if the supporting cast can do their jobs to support Brunson. They did a great job of it when Brunson was out. A phenomenal job. I spoke on it. I really loved the way OG played. I loved the way Mikal Bridges played, but I hated the way Cat played. We need to find a balance where we can have our supporting cast like OG, Mikal Bridges, and even Cat to an extent play at the level they're capable of, even with Brunson on the court. I don't know if it's just the fact they feel pressure to get the ball to Jalen Brunson. They feel like when Brunson's on the court, he's the guy you have to put all your attention to. Like I said, putting your attention all to one person isn't the best thing. It leaves possibility for failure. And the Knicks are only going to be able to make it past the Celtics. They're only going to even be able to make it past the Pistons, let alone the Celtics, if they find that perfect mixture of the play style they had while Brunson was gone and while Brunson's in the lineup. If they're not able to do that, they're just going to have a repeat of last year. And to me, that's the most interesting story. Not whether or not the Knicks can beat the Celtics, it's on if the Knicks can do what they already know they can do, if they can play to the best of their abilities, if they can believe. Believing is not just about the word believe, it's about feeling that I have the capability to go out there and play my best. I have the feeling when I'm out there that I am the best. I don't know what needs to change. I don't know what Thibodeau can say. I don't know what Brunson can say. I don't know what they can do to change that. But if they can, they will make it past the Celtics. Now, I've been a Ranger fan probably, I don't want to say all my life because I didn't really start paying attention to the Rangers probably until around second grade. So not all my life, not like the Yankees, but almost, almost all my life. And this is most definitely, and I really cannot stress this enough, the most pathetic Ranger season I've ever seen in my whole life. Okay, the most pathetic showing of hockey I have ever seen. I am pretty sure any of my high school state championship teams can take down the Rangers. Confident. Because the style of hockey I saw them play was abysmal. I've never seen hockey played this way all year. It looked like they had given up since day 1. But I called it from the start. I did. The Rangers would miss the postseason if those higher paid players like Mika, Kreider, and Fox could not get the job done. Mika had his lowest point total since 2017. Kreider had his worst season as a Ranger, and Fox was probably the slowest player on the ice while he was out there. But let's go over how this disaster of a season played out and see maybe where things went wrong. Because there were a lot of things that went wrong this season. I think one of the biggest mistakes was circumventing Barclay Goodrow's no trade clause and outright waiving him. This caused some massive frustrations within the organization and kind of derailed the whole season before it started. Barclay Goodrow had just come off a great postseason. He had done nothing wrong to deserve to be moved off this roster, besides the fact that the Rangers had the worst constructed payroll in all of hockey. And then you move on to Jacob Trouba, the former captain of the New York Rangers. This all started last summer when Chris Drury had tried to trade Jacob Trouba and he had declined. Now, you could take this in one of two directions here. Was letting Jacob Trouba back in the door the mistake? Or was trying to trade him in the first place the mistake? But I don't know. I don't think any of us can say whether or not that was the mistake. If Jacob Trouba was traded then, who's to say they wouldn't have been as bad? Who's to say if he wouldn't have tried to trade Jacob Trouba in the first place if they wouldn't have been as bad? If honestly, I think they would have been worse because Jacob Trouba is one of the highest paid players in all of hockey. You wouldn't have been able to get JT Miller when they started playing some of their best hockey. And he was not a great captain. He did not bring the energy that the Rangers needed. And when you're a captain and you're not bringing the energy that's missing, there's no point on having you on the team. So don't think that's the mistake quite yet. Maybe Drury eliciting trade partners and saying Kreider and Trouba were both on the trade block. That led to a 4-13 stretch. You put this out there that anyone's on the block, anyone can get traded. We're gonna tear it all down. You only traded Truba. You only landed up trading Jacob Truba. And you put this shadow over the team for what? Just so you could finally get rid of Jacob Truba? So you could finally extend Igor Shesterkin and risk the rest of the season just for that? I still don't think that's a mistake. To me, I think it comes down to the players that mattered taking steps back and seemingly giving up. They were underachieving. And I heard something earlier that Peter Laviolette was apparently silent on the bench starting as far back as December. Laviolette even saw the writing on the wall. His job's gone. His job is gone. Another instance of this energy stemming from the top down. You couldn't get it from your captain. I think your coach is supposed to fill that in. As someone that has coached baseball in the past and has had a great time doing that, and still around the game, still around my former high school team as well. I think that when you tell your players that when you have an energy about you, whether it's too positive or too negative, it's not very effective. But when you have no energy at all, that's the worst it can possibly be. You have to have some sort of coaching attitude, right? Everyone knows Brian Dable's the short-tempered goblin in the Meadowlands. Everyone knows that Aaron Boone's the guy that gets ejected all the time, but the players love him. Everyone knows Tom Thibodeau as the guy that barely uses his bench. They all have definitions. What defines Peter Laviolette? Absolutely nothing. But to me, it doesn't come down to any specific instance. It doesn't come down to players underperforming. It doesn't come down to Peter Laviolette. It comes down to the whole organization. The mistreatment of players has caused Madison Square Garden for the New York Rangers franchise to become, instead of the Mecca, to become the graveyard. Calvin DeHaan stated after his final game, when asked how he liked his time here since his contract is up, he said, "How about the way I've been treated here? It sucks." He used a different word than sucks, but it was definitely a statement. But if you look back even more, healthy scratching Capo Caco and never letting him find his groove, his identity as a player. And as soon as he voices his displeasure, you ship him to Seattle. That doesn't look very good, does it? Zach Jones, a very young defenseman, a guy I was clamoring to get on the power play lines, and it didn't happen until around February, said, "It's frustrating. I feel like I'm just rotting away." Jimmy Vesey, a player I love and I feel like loves the New York Rangers and has loved his time, even said he felt like he was dying on the New York Rangers. These are things that are unimaginable, would never have been said by players that play for the Rangers, because it is a destination for players to go. It's a place where everyone wants to play. I remember even a few years ago when they acquired Kane and Tarasenko, they both were ecstatic to be here, saying MSG is where you want to be. What happened in just that span of time? What happened is the question. The Rangers used to be that hub for players to come. And now it's a place where players go to die. The only way to fix it is you blow it all up. All right. You blow it all up. You fire Jury, you fire Laviolette, you get rid of Kreider, you get rid of Zibanejad, and any veterans you possibly can. You did this to yourself this year. I said before, start rebuilding this Rangers culture above all else. Get that culture back because without that, they're not getting anywhere. They won't even get to the playoffs, let alone the Stanley Cup. I said before the season started that the only way to be successful was to let the kids play. Instead, they mistreated most of their young players and especially their older players. And that is what caused this disaster of a season. And I'm so happy it's over. Moving on to the New York Yankees. I know I'm not ending with the New York Yankees. I want to end with the Mets today. They had a really rough series versus the Giants. I'm sad to say I was there on Friday, and very miserable day. But I was with my friend. I was with my dad, so at least I had fun like that. I did see some people I know, so at least I had fun for 3 innings until we left because they were losing 6-0. I feel like I have to admit that. I have to admit I left when they were losing. I did. I still consider myself a true fan. I did leave after the Yankees roll call guy left, though. The guy that does roll call left before me, just so that's known. But anyway, I don't want to focus on the negatives. It's an early season, so let's focus on the bright spot. Saturday's game. 8 runs on 11 hits. The bats were back at it again, but the bats haven't been the issue this year. It's been the pitching. But Will Warren was good. Will Warren was really good. He only gave 2 runs up. He only gave up 2 hits. He pitched great. I think that he can get to the. I think he reminds me a lot of Clark Schmidt out there. Speaking on Clark Schmidt, gonna touch on him a little bit later. But yeah, he's part of that young core that's getting it done. And Ben Rice is a player I want to spotlight today. Ben Rice. If you didn't see the headline on the New York Post the other day, it said Max Fried Rice. This team just has such a great culture around it, although they haven't been winning as much as late. But Ben Rice, 298 average, 4 home runs, 1049 OPS. Great numbers. And when you look even deeper, his baseball savant page, all red. If you don't know that, red usually is a really bad color to see on anything. But red's a really good color to see on baseball savant. It means you are the best of the best in your raw ability. You swing the hardest, you hit the hardest, you don't miss the ball. It basically means that even if your counting stats are not good, like average, you could look at that and see, okay, my natural ability is still there. Ben Rice, his baseball savant page is all red, and his hard hit rate is only below 2 players. Aaron Judge, number 1, obviously, and Shohei Ohtani. That is great. But somehow fans are still missing Juan Soto. To me, Juan Soto is nowhere close to the problem. I mentioned it. The pitching has been the issue. The pitching has been the major issue for this New York Yankees team. When we had Garrett Cole go down, when we had Luis Heel go down, when we had Clark Schmidt go down, we had all these arms go down. Loizaga even. That's what created the issues, not Juan Soto leaving. Juan Soto did not create any issues for us, but fans are still missing Juan Soto. And I saw this tweet, which the guy has now deleted. Now that I look at it, where he said, "I miss Juan Soto," and I said, his 4 RBIs and 1 homer would do wonders right now. If you don't know this, that would rank towards the bottom of New York Yankees hitters right now. And then someone responded and said, I have no doubt in my mind, with Judge behind him, he'd be better than that right now, even though Pete is on fire. But my whole point here is there's no point on dwelling on the past. There's no point in bringing up Juan Soto. We cannot dwell on something on someone that did not want to be here. We as a fan base need to focus on the players that want to be here. They want the legacy. They bleed the pinstripes. That is the bigger point. Not necessarily what Juan Soto would bring to the field, but rather what he wouldn't. Okay. To me, I feel like I say there's two sides of the New York sports market. There are two sides of Aaron Boone, either taking pitchers out too early or leaving them in too long. It's paradoxical, yes, but it works. That is, I point back to this Carlos Rodon decision yesterday to leave him in. Second and third, 2 outs. Rodon says, yeah, I could get the last out, and throws a curveball right on the upper region of the plate, right where the hitter is going to smack it straight into the left field. Oh, my goodness. He's got to get better with this awareness. I don't know if it's something you can get better in, though. Because to me, baseball is something that if you don't get better with experience, you're never going to get better because experience is how you get better. And Aaron Boone has had more than enough experience. So I think this is something we just got to live with. But I just keep thinking back to him bringing in Nestor, taking out Cole in game 5. So many more last season, too. But now this Carlos Rodon situation. And I'm like, this guy really does not know how to manage pitching at all. His lineups have been really good, though. His lineups have been really good. I want to stay a little bit positive. His lineups have been phenomenal, but please learn when to take pitchers out, because if not, we're gonna have the same repeat of World Series Game 1 and Game 2 and Game 3 and Game 5 and on and on. But like I said, let's think positive. But Marcus Stroman, oh, that's not positive. Abysmal on Friday. I was ready to start chanting, "You are not the starter," because if you guys did not know, he said that he's a starter. He's only a starter. He only wants to be a starter. An 11.57 ERA on the year and 5 runs, only recording 2 outs on Friday. I wanted to root for you, buddy. I really, really did, because I think you are a really good person. I think you want to be here, but you are not the starter. Talking about the other side of pitching, the bullpen, a lot of people are starting to get worried. Is the bullpen an issue? I mean, they've given up 21 runs, walked 38 batters, and given up 4 home runs over the course of 52 2/3. I don't really want to calculate the ERA here because I'm pretty sure it's around a 5. So that's not very good, but ERA isn't the most important stat with bullpen arms. But walks is a very big one, and walking 38 and 55 innings is not very good. Not very good. Walks lead to a lot of issues. Look at Clay Holmes. Look at Devin Williams blowing the save. Although, don't want to blame Devin Williams. Don't want to blame Devin Williams at all. I have it here in my notes. He's had a lot of time off from the game, and when you get out of that rhythm and you're not on the field all the time, it's hard to go out there and keep pitching to the level you normally do because you're not in the normal rhythm you are. Like in everyday life, your sleep schedule is thrown off, you're going to be thrown off. Similar to playing any sport, but especially baseball to me. Yeah, but that walking 38 batters is the thing that really needs to get fixed. That needs to get fixed. but I think it will because I think this is nothing more than the fact that it's really cold outside and it is really hard to grip the baseball. I don't know if you guys have ever played baseball when it's cold outside. When it's cold outside, the ball kind of starts to get some sort of condensation on it. And it gets really, really slippery. I don't know how it happens, but it does. And especially with Major League Baseball cracking down on foreign substances and everything, I can only imagine it's impossible to grip the baseball. Completely impossible. And I think this is why we're seeing with both sides of New York that their hitting is levels above their pitching, even though that wasn't really meant to be the case. Um, yeah, I think this is nothing more than the fact that it is April. Um, it was it felt like -2 on Friday. And on top of that, there was rain, and April showers bring May flowers. This is nothing more than the fact that hey, it's early on in the season, really hard to grip the baseball. To me, there's nothing else to it, really. Um, Want to end the Yankee segment off on a nice little injury update. Giancarlo Stanton is going to start a rehab assignment soon, but it's still unknown whether he will or not. He started hitting off a high velocity machine, which is obviously a great sign. He's not hitting off just a tee. He's not doing just those basic exercises. He's hitting off a high velocity. Very nice. He's also running outside, not necessarily on a flat treadmill. Very nice as well. He's definitely making his progress. As to why we don't have a date yet, I don't know. Um, I think it's just the Yankees being the Yankees, and they never want to say anything as to regarding a player's health because things change. Things change all the time. Clark Schmidt, however, does have a return date. Clark Schmidt will be returning Wednesday. He did not allow a run in 2 rehab starts, and that's a much needed boost to this pitching staff because, as I mentioned, it stinks. It's really, really bad right now. But I really think a lot of that has to do with the weather. But DJ LeMahieu, um, unfortunately, will be starting a rehab assignment soon. Please, please do not sit Peraza or Cabrera for DJ LeMahieu, please. But he will be returning soon, so friendly face. That's that's all I got for the Yankees today. The Mets. I saw something that really bothered me, and I wish I was on air last Monday. I really do. Because I saw after Pete Alonso had hit a massive home run, Juan Soto stands there and sits there all by himself in the dugout as the rest of his team goes to congratulate Pete Alonso. What are you doing? What are you doing? You were so nice to Judge last year. You were honestly. I heard about him being a clubhouse cancer, but last year I did not experience any of that. I thought he was a great clubhouse guy. I thought the players loved him. I thought Boone loved him. I thought that he fit in perfectly. But here I'm seeing this clubhouse cancer kind of come out. Why are you jealous of him? It was never going to be your team with Pete Alonso on the team. Never. I am sorry. Pete Alonso is the homegrown talent. Pete Alonso is that guy right now. He's doing really well. I'm happy for Pete. I'm really happy for Pete. But Pete Alonso has kind of had a unorthodox path to get to where he is. He's went from homegrown hero, giving Mets fans something to root for when there wasn't much for Mets fans to root for, garnering this new generation of Mets fans. If you want to talk about generational, talk about how Pete Alonso has created generations of Mets fans when there wasn't anything to create generations of Mets fans from. But fans still did not care whether or not Pete Alonso returned to the Mets. But now Steve Cohen does. Steve Cohen has said, what do you say? We're open, he told the New York Post. We're excited about the 25 season. And listen, I hope Pete's tremendous this season. This would be great for the Mets, certainly great for him. And hopefully that means we can figure out a way to extend the arrangement. Why didn't you do it this all season? Because you were waiting on Vladimir Guerrero, wouldn't you? I know exactly what the Mets were doing. They wanted Vladdy. They wanted Vladdy. And I don't think the Mets wanted Vladdy. I think Soto wanted Vladdy. But that's just a sneaking suspicion that Soto asked for Vlad. And that's what caused Pete to be looking like he was on the way out. I'd mentioned I really didn't think Pete Alonso was going to return to the Mets, but he has now. And now they want him back because he's doing well. Not after the years he gave you of averaging 40 home runs a year. He has the possibility to go down as the Mets' all-time home run leader. He's probably the most beloved homegrown talent since David Wright. But Mets fans didn't want him back. But now they do. This is what I'm talking about. That separates the Yankees and Mets fans. And this is what makes Mets fans little brother. We begged for our homegrown talent to stay. We begged for Aaron Judge to stay. We even begged for Gleyber Torres to stay last year. But Mets fans betrayed theirs and now act like nothing happens? Juan Soto really is a perfect fit for the Mets. Because he's ready to dump Pete. He doesn't respect Pete. And I don't think Lindor does either. And this is all because Pete Alonso's taking the spotlight away from them. And you know why Pete has the spotlight? And I want them to think it's because he doesn't ask for it. He gets the attention because he earns it. He doesn't ask for it. What are we gonna get? What are we gonna get? You get nothing. Sorry, little John Cena reference. But they keep wanting things. The fans wanted Soto. They didn't want Pete, but now they want Pete. I just can't wrap my head around this fact that they were ready to knock this guy to the curb when he is their own. He is your guy. He came up through your system. You saw him develop. You hand chose him to be the next face of the New York Mets. And now that you have a pretty new one, you don't want the old one anymore. But now that the old one is better than the new one, you want the old one again? You have to choose. It's one or the other. And I hope for the Mets' sake they make the right decision. But a few other things to I guess go over with the New York Mets would be the fact they're thinking about implementing a sixth starter. A little strange to me, which, like Pete Alonso, they let Luis Severino go. And Luis Severino said when he visited Citi Field when they played the Mets, sorry, I think it was in Sacramento, he said he was offered 2 years, $34 million, and all he asked to return was 2 years, 40. He just wanted $3 million extra a year, which in today's baseball landscape, not much money. Not much money at all. So why didn't you bring him back if you knew that maybe we would implement a 6-man rotation? Even if it was just a 5-man, that's a great guy to have. Much rather have him than Frankie Montas, who they gave that same amount of money to, 2 years, $34 million. They had the opportunity to bring Severino back. But unlike Pete Alonso, he's not there anymore. And this will happen if they don't treat their players right. And if they keep the energy Juan Soto has where Juan Soto has to be the center of attention. I get it makes more money because he's the bigger name. It's not what's right. It's not what should be done. But I think the whole reason the Mets need this sixth starter is because Kodai Senga is not used to pitching in a five-man rotation. And I said it last year going into the playoffs that Japanese starters are used to pitching on a 7-day cycle. They just are. It's not anything against them. It's just what their body is used to. Like, I am used to waking up at a certain time every morning. He is used to pitching a certain day every week. But it garners the question, why are the Mets doing this? Acting like Pete was not the face of the franchise while he was on the team, but now begging for him back. And I hope Pete says no. That's all I got for today. It's been a great few weeks in New York sports. I can't wait to see what the Knicks can do in this playoffs. I can't wait to see what the Giants do in the draft. And I really hope this weather gets warmer for the sake of the New York Yankees pitchers. And I hope for the sake of Pete Alonso, he gives the Mets what they deserve. And that is nothing. Thank you. Empire State of Sports, signing off.